Hi. So many of you will have been on the course or seen the video and figured out how to use AXLR8 Report Builder to choose the reporting area you want to do management reports with and to choose the fields that you want, the filters and so on and so forth. But many of you also will be aware that if you walk into any business, there are people who are just mucking about with spreadsheets all the time. And the problem is not that they're wasting time. The problem now with GDPR coming up is the security element of it. One of the big issues is that if you take information out of a system, it's not the time wasted in between taking the information out of the system, doing some calculations, making some nice graphs, the graphs which you probably asked that member of staff to do. The problem is that they're probably keeping it in all sorts of unsecured areas. So we walk into businesses and we should not see people's spreadsheets on their screens. We should certainly not see in our businesses spreadsheets of private data, transaction data, which is stuck in bins. And you might say, well, we have a process for scrapping that stuff through the shredder. But you know what? People send these spreadsheets home via email. They send them to their colleagues. They send them to you. You change them and send them back, and so on and so forth. And of course, one of the main things with GDPR coming up in May 25th, 2018, is that those spreadsheets need to be audited. You need to know if somebody says, I want to be forgotten, or I want a material change made to my data. You have to be able to know where all of those information assets are. And most importantly, with those spreadsheets flying around, the issues of somebody taking it away, a disgruntled member of staff, or having access to that data are big. So the security risk is something that we all need to deal with in our businesses. So looking at this diagram here, typically we would find in a commercial organization that somebody would take the data out of a transactional operational system like AXLR8. They would then do some data input over here where they do some calculations, create some graphs. It may also be that they would create a version which they can then export to another system. And examples of that would be, for example, exporting staff hours to payroll, exporting various different transactions to accounting systems together with their nominal codes and things from AXLR8. With our local government organisations, it might be exporting data about jobs for reports to OSIC or to their public websites, invoicing, exporting to collections companies to go chase, and so on and so forth. And then lastly, that information will often be then archived in unsecure storage. It'll be mailed to people, and occasionally the information will be put back into AXLR8, and it may not be reconcilable because it may have errors, transposition errors, and so on in it. What we think is the best way forward is for you to have a look at our Excel API. So the idea is you define the graphs that you want for your management information, and then with one click, your Excel spreadsheet that is securely kept on your machine without any contact with a human being repopulates itself securely by transferring data from the AXLR8 system. Now the best way to show you this is to show you an example. So if I just pull up a few, the best one here is this bakery example. So the idea is that this company is selling all sorts of foods to cafes and restaurants. It may not be relevant to your business, but you'll certainly get the idea. And they're doing hundreds of transactions a day, and as more and more transactions come in, the owner of the business can see his management information. This is just one graph, but a real business, there'd be lots and lots of different KPIs. And by clicking on refresh data here, it refreshes all this data with the latest transactions, and he can see all of the information. Here's another example. If I just go and get this spreadsheet here, this is a public sector one. This is again unlike a demo, this is public information, but this particular Metropolitan Borough Council has done 11,540 Freedom of Information Act requests through AXLR8, and as you can see, 83 of those have gone to review and 3 have gone to appeal, which is a very low, very good statistic. They can just click on this button here to refresh the data at any time they wish, and there's their Office of Information Commissioner stats, management stats, whatever it is. Now these were a demo, these aren't the ones that they actually use, but you can see the idea here. And of course this is totally secure. This spreadsheet sits on the manager's PC. It is as secure as any other spreadsheet in the organization, of which they probably have many thousand we've identified in their GDPR survey, and it is private in the sense that he can see it on his screen, he can make his decisions, and then the data is effectively disappears. Lastly, I have one here which is for a commercial asset finance broker. If you're in that industry, you will be familiar with the audits that you have to show that you don't just go and take the funder with the best commission, that you spread your business around different funders, and that you get the best funder for each customer. It's the same with mortgage brokers and other kinds of financial services. So the idea that you can refresh, get the latest data out of AXLR8, press a button like this and get all the information, see who your top salesperson is, see who your top funder is, but also for audit information to be able to demonstrate all of the right audit information. You can imagine that's a real advantage. So going back to the PowerPoint slideshow, to summarize, manual processing, spreadsheets left on screens, printouts on desks and in bins, major security issue, not least the competitive issue with people going off and if you give people access to export data from an AXLR8 system, there's all sorts of implications of that which I will leave to your imagination. Obviously people emailing and copying those files around the place, that is quite an issue as well. Typographical errors and time wasted, I'll leave you to work that out, but it's amazing how just a few pounds an hour adds up if somebody's doing a couple of days a month management information. Now the disadvantage of secure automation is that obviously it could cost you some money for us to set it up. The ones that you've just seen have been free for customers, but if you wanted something really complex it might take a bit of time and money. But the most important thing is you would see the information immediately, you'd make your decisions and then delete it after seconds, so there's a hugely more secure situation there. There's virtually no human intervention, so you don't have to share that information with your staff, you just get it immediately. Obviously the risk, the GDPR risk, the privacy security risks, if you're doing ISO 27001, you're good to go. The information is accurate, timely and compute. It's not a time slice from last week, it is now. So not only can you send it to spreadsheets, but I just thought I'd take a couple of minutes showing you a couple of examples. It's very difficult to show you an example of information going into Sage or a payroll system or a SAP or an accounting system or something, and I think it's a little bit boring to show you that you can mail merge documents immediately from the data. Many of you will already know that you can mail merge your agency contracts and your customer contracts and your commercial asset finance broking and your invoices and sales orders and so on using data straight out of AXLR8. What many people don't know is that this last thing down here is supposed to be the video icon for a website, is that you can actually send your information to a website, and this gives a lot of possibilities. So here's an example, or a couple of examples. One of them is these chaps here, Crew Talent, who run a wonderful talent agency, and you can have, for example, to get your party going with a buzz, you can have freestylers and jugglers, and all of this information is coming straight out of their AXLR8 system. And the clever people at 6B Digital, I believe is the agency here, there we go, 6B, have been able to bring it out, create the search facility, and make sure that the information in our system, which includes videos and pictures and all of this text about the people and so on, they've been able to create the e-commerce site and stuff using, amongst other things, our API to be able to get the data. Likewise, Key Marinas do newsletters using the AXLR8 newsletter builder and use our mail tracking archiving system. They have a company called Element 78 in Bristol, and Element 78 be able to use our API to be able to publish their newsletters. So this particular page here is one of their marinas, Royal Keys Marina, one of, I think they have about 8 marinas that they own themselves, and others I think that they manage. So Element 78, the web design agency, are able to completely style this, but we just give them a line of code to put in, and at the end of it they must have put 3 because they've got the last 3 newsletters. At the time of speaking, if they had put in a 4, they'd probably get the last one in August. If I look at this October one here and click on that, that comes up and you can see that they have effectively published the newsletter, or Matt, the marina manager up there, who's also a super journalist as well, has published the newsletter with various different events going on in the marina, his advertising on the left hand side here, and how many of us in our company newsletters can talk about being pooped on by 120 angry terns? So yeah, so that's the kind of facilities that the AXLR8 system can provide. And so I'll leave the other kind of applications to your imagination, but a very powerful facility to be able to automate information, make it provide immediate management reports so you can make better, quicker decisions, but also to be able to automate it through to your website so that you can sell more, keep closer to your customers, make your websites come to life, and hopefully just interact better and increase your SEO. Thank you very much indeed for listening.